welcome to our SJSU, thank you, Special Libraries Association talk tonight. My name is Basha Belowska-Elliott, and I am the chair of the SJSU Special Libraries Association student group. I know that many of you have been to our events before, but for those of you who haven't, I want you to know that our group is dedicated to exploring current trends in LIST professions and promoting careers in special librarianship. One of the ways in which we do that is by bringing speakers who are LIST leaders to share their knowledge and experiences with us. And tonight's guest is just one of those leaders. Allow me to introduce Tracy Z. Maleeff. Thank you for joining us tonight, Tracy.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Tracy is a new independent info pro, which I'm personally dying to hear about, and the owner of Sherpa Intelligence LLC. And previously, I love that she calls herself your guide up a mountain of information. And I think it's really clever. And whenever I see these little snippets from Tracy, I want to steal them, but she has already published them somewhere, so I can't do it. And previously, Tracy worked as a librarian, primarily in law firms, with some experience with both the corporate and academic worlds. And Tracy is a graduate of the MLIS program from the University of Pittsburgh, and she is an active SLA member, holding many leadership positions. She was the recipient of the 2014 Dow Jones Innovate Award, and in 2015 she was named an SLA Fellow. And currently she's a member of the Women's Society of Cyberjutsu and writes for cybersecurity portal peerless.com. And she actively tweets both as Library Sherpa and InfoSec Sherpa. And are you still tweeting as SLA also officially?
I'm tweeting as SLA Conf, C-O-N-F, as in Frank, just for the 2016 conference is going to be here in Philly. So I'm involved with local arrangements. So I'm tweeting as SLA CONF, but SLA HQ is someone else. I have nothing to do with that.
Okay. So you should also check out Tracy's LibrarySherpa.com blog and her Tuesdays with Motivation. Tonight, Tracy will give us an overview of resources that will enhance our professional development, and she'll introduce information security to us. So please join me in welcoming Tracy. And Tracy, please take it away.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Great to see some. Thank you for applauding, Brian. Great to see some familiar names here and everything. So I'm Tracy Z. Maleeff, and you can follow me on the Twitters as Library Sherpa. And I'm also, and that's why I put that shocked face, ooh, I have another handle. I'm also InfoSec Sherpa. I know that traditional marketing would probably tell you not to mix brands like that. I did not expect InfoSec Sherpa to blow up like it did. So I have over 1,000 followers on InfoSec Sherpa, and I've only had it for like 6 months. So I'm just going to roll with it. So if you want to follow me as InfoSec Sherpa, just be mindful that it's going to be more cybersecurity related information, whereas Library Sherpa is more library and other live tweeting the Oscars and things like that. So anyway, that is me. And, well, Basha did a good job kind of giving a rundown. Oh, so since we're in the middle of March Madness, I thought rather than just do a normal, boring profile photo, I'd show you a college basketball photo. So that's me in my Pitt attire at a Pitt basketball game, a March Madness of years past, back when they were good. So, yeah, involved with SLA. So I love that I'm, be able to talk to the SLA, when I work with the SLA group at San Jose State. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll give you a little bit of background, and Bosch really want to hear about my business. So, yeah, the deal is I spent about 10 years in law firms. I spent 7.5 with the most recent one. And, a couple years ago, I just really started to kind of feel like I wanted to get back into tech. When I was in my early 20s, I used to love to sit in the computer lab and be, the only female and one of the only like a handful of people playing around with the computer, getting into places I shouldn't have, been getting into and things like that. And it took me, all this time to realize, like, I was really happy doing that. And I didn't pursue it then for a variety of reasons, and one was, like I mentioned, being the only female. There wasn't really the support system that there is now. So for a variety of reasons that, you can't turn back time, I didn't pursue it. I wanted to get back into it, so I was just like, I'm just going to look into this again. So I started taking some classes to the Women's Society of Cyberjitsu, which is a nonprofit group of women who are established in cybersecurity who volunteer their time to teach these classes, to teach women to get the skills they need to get into cybersecurity. So I found this whole other world and these whole other peeps on Twitter, my InfoSec Sherpa, and this whole other community. And it's just been really great, and it's really just feels fulfilling to me. I mean, so more and more, and it's not that I don't like being a librarian. That's always going to be a part of me. It's just that I'm really interested in security because it is very much like librarianship. It's, it is helping people. There's so many similarities. I keep telling all the information security people, they don't even understand how this is so much like librarianship. Someone was giving me sort of like a litmus test to see if I was cut out to be in information security or not, and he gave me 3 things, and one was, do you like fighting for what seems like hopeless causes? Can you stand not being, the respected department within your organization, and are you able to work with, no budget or a flat budget? And I said, yeah, you basically just described the life of a librarian. So, I mean, if that's the major tenets of cybersecurity, then, like, I've been there, done that. So that's kind of how all this came about. So the business part was, I decided that I was going to make 2015 the year of my career. So New Year's Day of 2015, I sat and I watched the parades, and I did my resume, I did cover letters, I sent out, sent a bunch out. I had an interview as early as the first week of January. I had a total of 3 interviews at law firms in 2015, and what I realized is that everything was just kind of the same. And that's when this snowball started rolling inside my head of, if I'm going to get closer to that happiness I had in tech, I need to do something dramatically different. So the end of 2015 came around, and that's when I started to realize I had to put things in place, and really the only way for me to jump into something completely different is just to make a drastic change and go into business for myself while I, obtain the skills that I need to get a job in security. So that's worked out well for me so far. I actually have a cybersecurity company as a client that I help them with research projects. I help, I still do librarian type of things, but for a cybersecurity company. And I can get into some of this more later, but I was mentioning before we started recording, it's only, March 22nd, and I've been to 3 cybersecurity conferences so far this year. I mean, I've really just plunged into it. I've made great connections. I have all kinds of requests, to do writing. A lot of people are really curious about this whole crossover between librarianship and cybersecurity, and just the whole organization aspect. I have a lot of these tech people saying to me, oh, I have this project, it's really hard, I don't know what to do. I have all these devices on my network, and I have to give them all names and locations, and oh, and it's so hard. And I'm like, okay, that's a library, and that's called cataloging, and like, you give me like, a couple hours, and you can have that done. It's like, oh, it's taking me months to do that. Like, okay, yeah, like, oh, you guys need a bunch of librarians badly here. So that, in a nutshell, is kind of how I've carved out a niche for myself as InfoSec Sherpa in the tech world. So I hope, Basha, I hope that was the story that you were hoping to hear. I hope I didn't disappoint. But,
I think it's a great story. I loved it.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it is scary. I mean, it's not to be taken lightly. I mean, my husband and I discussed finances, and a lot of preparation went into it. I had people actually say to me, like, a lot of people think that I just up and quit my job. which, you know, that's, I think, the fantasy that everybody wants. No, I did not up and quit my job. This was a very, you know, thoughtful process, planning, and all that. So no, I planned everything out, and I'm still kind of figuring out my future right now. I mean, it's only been a little over a month, and I actually was exchanging emails this evening with a client that told me, you know, we're trying to negotiate some terms so that I can get a new client. So things are happening every day here in Sherpa Intelligence land. So let me move on. All right, so I'm just going to we'll go over some technical tools. And I should have used air quotes around that because I'm going to talk about a variety of things. And then we'll get into the information security. But if I'm kind of beating the first part to death and you guys just want to skip the information security, we can do that. So, okay. So in the chat box, can anybody tell me what Exhibit A is? No, this is not a trick question. There's a story. There's a reason. Yay, thank you. It is a fax machine. Thank you. Okay. Exhibit B. What is Exhibit B? Do you know what that is? Thank you. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, great. Oh, Grace, bonus points for Grace. You knew it was England. Very good. It was the United Kingdom. Perfect. Okay. That is a real fax number. It's for a law firm. I won't say which. It's a law firm fax number in London, so don't fax it. But anyway, so my point is, let's talk about technology tools. Will you have to use a fax machine when you get into the working world? Maybe. And as a Gen Xer, do me a favor, if you're younger than Gen X, please don't roll your eyes. We think it's dumb too. Coming from the law firm world, we still had a fax machine. We still had clients that, you know, or vendors that we dealt with that used a fax machine. And my point of telling you the story is I had an assistant that I asked her to fax this contract to, and medical libraries still, yeah. Like, I asked her to fax this contract over to this vendor who was somewhere in Europe. I don't remember where exactly, it doesn't matter. But I gave her the international phone number and said to fax this. A couple hours go by, and you know this little thing called a time difference, that's kind of crucial because it had to be done then. So a couple hours go by, and I was like, oh, can I get that contract back? I want to file it now that it's been faxed. And oh, well, I didn't know how to use the fax machine, and I didn't understand that phone number that you wrote on it, and I didn't know how to do it, and I didn't do it. So Hulk smash, rage, because that was our only way to communicate with them, and by now it was after hours in whatever, in Europe where they were. So first rule of technology is you may have to deal with an outdated technology. If your job is in this company or in this office, just learn the outdated technology. If you don't know how to use it, if a fax machine is very foreign to you, ask someone. If she had come to me right away and said, I don't know how to use a fax machine, again, librarian, teachable moment. Let's do this together. Let me show you. And then, the international phone numbers. There are a lot of people I have come across that don't understand how to dial international phone numbers. For example, for Great Britain, the United Kingdom, that 0 in parentheses is not something that you use. You drop that. That's only for within the UK. And these are just things that maybe you learn by traveling or by someone telling you, but retain this knowledge because, again, that was a crucial document that had to get out. And by just kind of throwing your hands up of like, faxes are stupid and I don't know how to use one, well, that was a problem. That was a business issue. So, I don't think you're going to see a mimeograph machine, if anybody even knows what that is. But I'm just saying, like, if there is a technology that you come across in your office that is outdated, just go with the flow. Ask someone how to use it if you don't know how to use it, because you may not know the ramifications of you not using that machine. So get what I'm saying? I always like to use this as an example that, the lowly fax machine, yeah, it's on its way out, but we see here medical libraries use it, law firms still use it a lot. You know, you might come across it, and you know, you just need to know how to use it. Yeah, and I can't imagine any professional that. Yeah, it was annoying to me that she just was like, yeah, I don't understand this phone number you gave me, and blah blah blah. Always ask questions. So here, now I just put a pretty, that's my actual, like, my Sherpa Intelligence logo. So I just want to kind of talk now, and I didn't want to have everybody distracted with stuff on the screen. So, okay, so other technologies. Now, again, I'm going to preface this, but this is my opinion. Your mileage may vary in your offices, but I'm just going to kind of speak from my experience of what I thought worked and what didn't work. So I'm not sure how much weight this has anymore, but back in the day, saying that you were proficient in Microsoft Office Suite was a big deal. And the suite is made up of what? Word, Excel, PowerPoint. I think technically they include their Note version, but you don't understand how much of a rock star you look like if you can do charts and graphs in Excel. There were many times in my office in the law firms, both law firms that I worked for over a 10-year period, where knowing things, you know, like the newsletter programs, I don't think it exists anymore, but some of the programs that did newsletters. Thank you. Yeah, I think it was Publisher. Publisher. Thank you. Knowing Publisher, you know, like the law firm that I just left, that I was able to make charts out of an Excel spreadsheet. I look like a wizard. I mean, it was crazy. You know, not only like, you know, learn the advanced functions of you know, of these Microsoft products, because that will set you apart. You know, that's one less thing that you have to outsource to another, you know, department. Or, and again, I'm only kind of speaking from the corporate sense, but say if you're in a public library, that's something that you can do yourself. That, again, you can make an impression on someone, because I'm looking at this from your standpoint that you're going to be new in a field, you know, in a career, new in a job. So you're going to want to impress people, and you're going to want to, you know, show what you can do. Excuse me. So I really think it's to your advantage to learn some of these advanced features. And there's so many. Sorry, I have to cough for a second. Sorry about that. There's so many resources through Microsoft, on MOOCs, YouTube videos. Just Clippy doesn't exist anymore, if anybody remembers Clippy, but there's all kinds of help features, you know, within these products to learn this. So that's something that I would highly recommend. Speaking of software, and I thought of this just a few minutes ago before we went live, and I pulled it up. This was the bane of my existence when I worked at the law firm. There's a product from this company called SAP called Business Objects. Well, they call it Business Intelligence, but then they also call it Business Objects. That's the first part that's annoying, because they can't decide what to call it. But it's basically, it's a enterprise-wide database where the whole company will dump all their data, and then you have to go in and formulate like which fields you want to produce all these reports. Well, sounds simple enough, right? I think some like sadist created it. I don't know. It is not easy to use, and I'm pretty sure there was only one person at my last law firm who actually like knew how to use it well. And thankfully, he was a nice person, because I had to call him all the time and get help with it. And in my case, it was one of those things where I didn't use it often enough to always remember how to use it, so when I had to go in and do it. But any sort of advanced database like that, if you know how to use it, would be to your advantage, especially if you're going to be in some sort of corporate environment that's going to have a heavy-duty database, like, you know, an SAP product. And that's really good. So other products, you know, again, it's going to depend on which kind of library you're in, so I'm trying to keep things really general. I mean, the first thing to do is if you're, you know, interviewing somewhere, ask them. You know, ask what sort of products software products they use. And you can also gauge the office by how well the person answers. If you ask the person what software programs you use in their office and they can't really answer you, well then that might be a red flag that you might not have a very tech-savvy boss, and is that something that you can live with? Or that could be an opportunity of you to be like, oh, okay, well, they don't really seem like they know what they're talking about, but I can do all this stuff and I will impress them. Visual things are very useful. Visual things meaning like any video programs. Is it Camtasia is one of them? Sorry, I apologize if I'm referencing programs that, yeah, Camtasia still exists. Okay, sorry. There are some of these I haven't used in a long time, and I'm not sure if they still exist. Anything Camtasia is good, so you can record the keystrokes to do demos if you're trying to show someone how to use a database. And then that's another thing. Say if you're in an environment where you have LexisNexis or Westlaw or Hein Online or something like that. Also just knowing the individual subscription databases or some sort of EBSCO product, whatever subscription databases your workplace subscribes to, it is in your best interest for your career to know that really well. Whether it's your catalog, it depends on where you are in the staff, but your catalog, your subscription databases, things like that, the more that you can profess that you're an expert in something, not only is that good for your resume for job hunting, but it's also going to, prove your value. How many times do we talk about that as librarians, proving your value, at work? I mean, now don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you that you have to be an expert in all of these. If you are that, that excited about all of this, please do go ahead, but don't kill yourself trying to become an expert in everything. Pick what feels right to you. If you really, if you're really good at cataloging and you just have an intimate relationship with, an OPAC, then go for it. Know every little thing, every little quirk, because then what you can do is you can write a pathfinder, say internally, and become indispensable as that person who knows how to, how to find something in that database or how to fix something if it's not working right. I can't stress that enough. For me, I sort of became kind of a generalist, I guess. The bar was very low, though, for technology and law firms. If you're not already familiar with this, most law firms are not very technologically advanced, nor are the attorneys. So, true story, had an attorney one time call and tell me that he wanted all of his law books now on Kindle, which is that's just insane. But he wanted everything on Kindle. So, kind of just play along with it. Okay, trying to do my reference interview. I'm like, okay, why do you want this? What's this for? So he just, everything, Kindle's the future. Everything needs to be on Kindle. I'm like, all right. So play along with it a little bit. And I said, okay, well, which email address is your, account connected, your Kindle connected to, so that I can get these things for you? And keep in mind that there's hardly any law books available for Kindle, but again, I was just kind of playing along because I knew this was going nowhere. Yes, I bet no one ever told you that acting was also a skill that you need to have as a librarian, but it is. So you have to be convincing. Take an improv class. It'll help you with librarianship. So to which he replied, well, I don't actually have a Kindle. I said, well, how exactly were you going to do this? Now, I know that there's Kindle for desktop, but remember, I knew he didn't know this, so just go along with me. So I said to him, well, how are you planning on reading these? And he said, oh, well, I was just going to borrow one of the Kindles from one of the associates here at the firm. And I was like, there it is. There it is. So, yeah, he just read an article, which is usually the worst thing that can happen when an attorney reads an article about something. They get a bee in their bonnet, and he read some article about how great Kindle was and just had to have everything on Kindle. So after, talked him off the ledge, after I explained that you can't just go around borrowing someone else's Kindle and get all your books loaded onto it, that wasn't going to happen. So, got him to understand that and avoided that catastrophe. But I mean, I got some crazy technical questions that in the end made me look like a genius. The best one that happened all the time was the firm had, and I'm not giving away like any corporate secrets or anything. Don't don't worry. The firm had a firm-wide license for the Wall Street Journal, and man, was that difficult for some people to comprehend what a site license was. And I would go into their offices and help them get on the Wall Street Journal with the site license. And yeah, I had many comments of like, like you are just a computer genius. And I would just respond, yes, I am. Yes, because I could figure out how to use a site license with a couple clicks. So yeah, the lower the bar, the better you look. But it's, again, just things like that of having, I guess the overarching theme that I wanted to talk about technology is, so not only, there's twofold. One, not only do you really want to kind of pick some spots to excel in, because that's to your advantage, but the other part is what you need to really practice is teaching technology to people, because as librarians, whether you're public, academic, corporate, law firm, you're going to spend an inordinate amount of time teaching people how to use the resources that you pay millions of dollars for. And you just need to accept that fact. So what you need to do is you need to hone your teaching skills or your instructional skills. So again, if you still have classes left to take, if there is some sort of like, some sort of instructional, like a trainer class, do that, or like adult education class or something like that, or take a MOOC, something to understand adult education, or even just like training tips. There's a group called, and my husband belongs to them, so he's going to be glad that I'm, here we go. It's they're called Association for Talent Development. They're td.org. That's T as in talent, D as in development.org. Talent development is, actually here, let me put it right here, td.org. Talent development is like the new buzzword for human resources or personnel, in case you weren't aware. I think it's obnoxious personally, but yeah, so talent development is HR. Not isn't HR, is a division of HR. So talent development and talent and things like that, that's all like personnel related. So in case you see talent and you're not familiar with what that is, think personnel, HR, things like that. But a subset of that is there's training. I mean, my husband is a professional trainer, for example. So go to td.org. It is a membership organization, but there's also some free information. But try to pick up some training tips, okay? Because that is going to help you so much as a librarian. You're not even going, you won't even, believe it. And I wasn't entirely joking about the improv class, because remember, you need to, we always hear about what, the elevator pitch and things like that, and reference interviews and things like that. I mean, you need to be able to think quickly. I mean, you get some crazy stuff said to you, right, as a librarian. And yeah, Pasha. I'm not going to tell him he said that. You get some crazy things said to you. You have to know how to react quickly, and I have an example. So a couple of years ago, I went on an interview at the Archdiocese of Philadelphia. And we were sitting around, and it was kind of at the peak time when there was a lot of scandals going on in the church, and I think they were really vetting applicants very carefully because of everything going on. So they gave me a scenario, and they said, so what if a patron walks in and comes up to you at the reference desk, doesn't ask a question, but just starts spouting his beliefs that he thinks that the church has been wrongly accused, and that these people coming forward are troublemakers and things of that sort. What would you do? And since I was at the interview, and my immediate response was, let me show you over to one of these computers and I'll bring up some articles that share that opinion and you can sit here and read them. To which the head librarian leaned across the table, looked at someone sitting at the other end of the table and yelled, "Why didn't you do that the other day?" So I felt bad. I didn't mean to get her in trouble, but that's improv. I mean, I had to think on my feet of what I would do, and I pretended that that was a real situation. So, and my point of, of doing that is to get the person, away from me. Get the, because I, clear the reference desk, get the person away, and don't agree or disagree. Just let me sit you down in front of a computer, and I'll bring up an article that agrees with your point of view, and you can read about it. So that's why I've learned more and more that being able to think on your feet, the training, the improv, that's all stuff that is just going to make you a superstar librarian. And you have to love what you do. You have to want to do all this. So I see the time is ticking away here, and I want to get to cybersecurity. So, sorry. So before we move on, does anybody have any last questions about technology? I hope I answered questions. Is there anything that I didn't get to that somebody wanted me to comment on? Sorry, you know me, Basha. You put a mic in front of me, and I just can talk whenever. So, they literally had to take the microphone away from me at computers and libraries because I just started to sing and everything. I told them, I'm like, you put a live mic in front of me, and I'm just forget it. Okay, so yeah, I hope I got to everyone's understanding. So just in a nutshell, embrace the technology that's in your office, whether it's that it's outdated or not. Try to become a specialist, in at least one thing, more if you can hack it. You want to be that point person. You want to be like, Brian is the Excel guy. Rebecca is the social media person, and things like that. I became the social media person, where attorneys were seeking me out for social media help, and where Bosch is the one who knows how to get to the Wall Street Journal. You want to be that person. So whatever the technology is, you need to survey your environment and just go with it. And if there is an environment that you want to be in, that that you want to get into another type of environment, study that. Say if you want to be in a more science-based atmosphere, a library atmosphere, find out what they're using and then start to study it on your own. So does that help? That's a really large nutshell, but that's kind of it. All right, I think I'll move on then. So what I can really talk about for hours on end is information security. So, okay, so this is not to scale, but this is just to show you. Okay, so technically, the correct terminology is information security. Cybersecurity is actually just a part of information security. It's inside of it. Again, this is not representational of it, but I just wanted to give you the example. Unfortunately, cybersecurity is the term that has come to be used most often. And as someone flat out said to me, it's more sexy than information security. Just the name sounding, so okay. But it's important for me that you guys know that there's a difference. Information security covers a bunch of different things, which I will explain in further detail in a second. So cybersecurity is one. Cybersecurity, like the name sounds, involves the computer part, the code and the networks and things like that. There's social engineering, which I will get into, and that's someone faking you out or someone sneaking into a place that they shouldn't be in. There's a lot of data aspects to this. There's a whole bunch of things. So just know that information security is the umbrella, and underneath it there's a lot of little things. Okay, so back in September, I emailed the CIO, which is the Chief Information Officer of my firm. Again, remember, I was the librarian at the firm. So the librarian emailed the CIO and said, "What are we doing for Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October?" To which he responded, "Oh, well, what do you have in mind?" So I let him know that I was, I'm interested in cybersecurity and I had been studying it. And I came up with this 5-point plan that I wanted the firm to do for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is in October, so mark your calendars, people, for next year, don't miss it. So there were 5 Fridays in October in 2015. So I came up with 5 different topics, and what we did was I worked with their training department at the firm, and I supplied them with statistics and quotes and data and things like that, and they created these infographics, and every Friday we sent these out firm-wide. And the approach that I was mentioning earlier, I believe it was to Grace, that the approach I like to take when I talk about cybersecurity is telling you from the consumer point of view, because that's something that everybody, despite which library you want to work in or whatever your undergrad major was or all that stuff, that's something that you can all identify with. It's up to you then to kind of figure out how to adjust that to apply to your workplace, because it's too difficult to try and get into too many different work scenarios. So I like to approach this from from the consumer point of view. But I can kind of explain how this fits into libraries as well. So what is information security and why should care? So yeah, it's the protecting of data, either your data, your insurance company's data, your credit card company's data. It's making sure that only the people who need to say it is the really, really, really basic way to explain it. And there's so many ways to protect yourself. Now, keep in mind, full disclosure, I am more of a security nerd than a privacy nerd. Sometimes you'll hear security and privacy kind of mixed together. There's been a lot of debate on my InfoSec Sherpa account that how they're kind of different, and I kind of see it differently too. I have a great person that I'm going to show you on another slide about privacy, so I'm going to be talking about security stuff. So security is something even as a shredder. Do any of you have a shredder? Again, I know this is old school, but I love good. Oh, this is warming my heart. Oh, you people making me happy. Okay. I love shredders, like weirdly so, that like my husband bought me a new shredder recently, and I was like so excited about it, like so much that I'm gonna like keep it in my home. Oh yeah, Brian, that exactly. Yeah, I have the one that can cut like credit cards and stuff. Yeah, like shredders are awesome because one way that someone can breach your personal information security is going through your trash if you keep all your statements and things like that, or if you go through some of your junk mail, that like if you see a credit card will send you this kind of weird blank envelope and you don't think it's anything, but inside it's actually like checks that people can write on your credit card. Oh, shred those puppies. Shred them, because someone can go through your trash and find these. If you don't dispose of them properly, they can can start writing checks on your credit card. That's just one example. So I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make you all paranoid, but this is a reality. So, and Heather's saying that it happened to her. So, yeah, you have to be careful, the information that you put out there. Another one is, just even online, like what you share online. Now, I do admit that there was probably a period a couple of years ago I probably was a little bit too free with some of the info shared online, but it's hard. You want to be able, it's social media. You want to be able to share things about where you are and all, but, it's hard. How much do you share? I posted a photo the other day that made it look like I was somewhere when I had already gotten home. I wasn't trying to be deceptive. I didn't say that I was currently there. It was just a photo of an airplane at an airport on my Instagram. And I waited till I got home after my flight and posted it, because I took the photo and I thought it through my mind, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to wait till I get home. There's no, my like whole 100 whatever followers on Instagram, nobody's going to care, like if I waited. If I waited to get home or not. Yeah, there's a lot of issues going around right now that people are calling to say that they're with the IRS and that they owe back taxes and things like that, and it's a big scam, because then they tell you to take out cash and go to some bank and deposit in this account and blah blah blah. Oh my God, just no. Like please don't fall for that. That's such a scam. So that's what information security is. So all this stuff is information security. You want to keep your stuff safe. So strong passwords. I know everybody hates long passwords and crazy passwords and things like that. I know it's a pain, I know. But, you know, having ABC 1, 2, 3 or whatever like that, you know, or QWERTY is another one. There was a list that came out recently of like the most 100 like stupidest passwords. QWERTY, like, you know, on your keyboard, QWERTY from left to right, you know, or any combination of like keystrokes in order, are things that easily can be broken because, you know, they can be brute force attacked, and, you know, through brute force, there's that repetitive nature that people can figure things out, or they could just guess, to be honest. One thing that I tell people, I was at a bloggers meetup recently, and I said to people, don't put the password of your blog, don't use a password for your blog that's, you know, what you're blogging about. Because a lot of these people were like lifestyle bloggers, and this woman had like a muffin blog, and she's like, oh, like my password is muffin1 or whatever. I'm like, okay, don't tell me your password. I'm like, go change it right now. And I'm like, yeah, don't put muffin in as your password if you're blogging about muffins. You know, or like sports teams. Like if you can Google someone and easily figure out what sport teams they like or what their pets' names are, don't use those as your passwords. You know, don't use, you know, there was something, you know, when you ask those security questions, lie. You know, some of those security, not for something important, but like there was a website today that wanted, it was something stupid. It was some website that they wanted a security question. They wanted to know something about me, and I'm like, you do not need to know this. So I put a different answer than the real one. Should you use different passwords for different accounts? Yes, because one of the things, I know people are going to hate these answers, but I'm sorry. Yes, because you know, if you figure out one, if a hacker figures out one for your Gmail, and you use it for your Facebook, that's probably, you know, they're going to probably do the cycle through different things like that. So yeah, because if you crack it once and you try to use it for the other stuff, then yeah, it would work. I mean, there's a saying about how passwords are like underwear; they should be changed often, and you know, and you get new ones. So change your passwords often, get new passwords. And again, I know that's what people don't want to hear. I've heard different opinions of what a strong password is. You know, I went to some session where this guy was like, take a psalm lyric, like a really like long psalm lyric, and no, this is the example he used. This is not any of my passwords. He was like, the hills are alive with the sound of music, and he like talked about how like he used, you know, like he used numbers instead of letters in some places, and exclamation points in some places, and all this stuff. And I was like, I mean, he wrote it out. I mean, that's a really long phrase. So yeah, it's a little crazy. So, you know, the best way to keep track of them, and I'm going to do a shameless plug here because a friend of mine works for them, but it's 1Password. There's these things called password managers, and they are subscription, but it's a more secure way. It's kind of, if anyone's familiar with it's kind of like OneLog that a lot of libraries have for their databases, but it's more secure. See, well, yeah, Kate, that's the thing, that because one of them did get hacked. I don't know the answer to that, because that is a question that I've asked myself. Let me just put it this way. Every information security professional that I've talked to about this have still said that it's still safer with a password manager than without. I mean, some people go even as far as like kind of jokingly saying that, you know, a pen and paper notebook is probably the safest way, but yeah, as long as you don't lose that stupid notebook, right? So Yeah, so it's yeah, don't give away any passwords. I know that's a hard question to answer because I have that same question too. But do you know why they are safer? Yeah, they claim to have better controls. Yeah. So check out 1Password. You know, that, like, so sorry, I wish I could give you some more solid answers, but I have all the same questions. You know, I'm not entirely convinced myself, but I mean, I know someone who works for 1Password, and I have this conversation a lot with security professionals, and, you know, they all have their favorite password managers, but the thing is that I haven't met a security professional that doesn't use a password manager. They all believe in them. So that's telling me something. I said, now some of them have different ones that they believe in. And this is slightly off topic, but before I forget about it, I'm going to skip down to you get what you pay for, the perils of free Wi-Fi. So the internet is filthy and dirty and disgusting, and what you need is a clean tube of a VPN, a virtual private network, to cut through all that sewage and get you a clean connection, you know, to your internet service provider. So I hope everyone knows this, but please do not do banking or any other sensitive, you know, private information on free Wi-Fi, because there's probably someone sitting there, you know, with a device or with their laptop just looking at all the traffic going through the Wi-Fi. So the best thing is to get a virtual private network, and there's all kinds of ones out there. You want to pay for it. This is not something that you want for free. You want to pay for the service, because the reason is if you're paying, the general knowledge or the general wisdom behind this is that, you know, a free service is just going to sell your information, and then it's not safe. So at least there's contracts involved with these paid VPNs, and I've had one for years that I use. Use a VPN when you're on Wi-Fi. I was just at Computers and Libraries, and there was a presenter who was kind of mocking people who didn't trust the hotel Wi-Fi, and if I had a can, I just would have crushed it. I was just like, do not stand up there in a room full of people and tell them that this hotel Wi-Fi is completely safe to use. Like, you don't know that. So, you know, protect yourself. You know, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that you can't use free Wi-Fi. Just be aware of what you're doing, that people can see what you're doing. One that I've heard of a lot is the Starbucks app, that because a lot of times the free Wi-Fi will automatically engage on your phone, and then they can swipe your credit card information because they'll go into the app like while you're standing in that long line. So I disabled the Starbucks Wi-Fi on my phone, so I just use data when I pull up that app to pay for it. So that was one thing that was pointed out to me. So I didn't want to forget to mention VPN. So let me go back up then. Phishing and spearfishing. So fish is or was a band. I don't know, they're still around. But phishing is, and actually I saw a note on my InfoSec Sherpa account earlier this evening. In times of tragedy, unfortunately, phishing goes up. So you might see some emails about like fundraising for the victims of the bombing in Brussels. Well, be careful, because a lot of times they might be phishing, meaning that the link that you're clicking on really isn't the link. It's going to something else that's grabbing your information, and again, it's going to, it might grab a login for your email and then take over your email, things like that. Spearfishing is kind of like it sounds. It's more directed. It's for example, someone who knows that your favorite, sports team is the Sixers, and I'm making that up because nobody's favorite sports team is the Sixers. And oops, here we go. And they might send you an email that looks personalized to be like, hey, Tracy, like, you won, the Sixers are your favorite team, and you won free tickets and blah blah blah. So it's something that seems believable and tailored to you, and it's because someone went and got information tailored to you. You'll see this a lot of times in companies that you'll see like CEOs will click on things because it'll even spoof an internal email. It'll be like, I need the number to wire for something, and it'll look like it's an internal email, but it really was somebody giving up some, like, wire information to send money. Like, that's actually, you can look those up. That actually has happened. Social engineering, I kind of mentioned this a little earlier. It's someone maybe asking you a lot of questions. It could be someone looking over your shoulder as you're putting in your ATM PIN number. It could be someone who is walking around your building acting like they're lost or acting like they're looking for someone, and they might want in somewhere. Say if they're standing at the elevator and the doors are locked to actually get into the thing, and they're just like, I'm new and I forgot my ID, and does any of this sound familiar? Like, that's all social engineering, because especially, if the end result is that they're going to steal something. And a lot of hospitals lately have been, Basha just wrote a note in the chat room, a lot of hospitals lately have been hacked. There was one in Los Angeles that was, the ransomware is a whole other conversation I could have, but the hackers took over their whole files, and it was called ransomware, and they were demanding Bitcoin. No, that's fine, Basha. Ransomware is a whole other issue, where the hackers went in and they took control of the hospital's computer system and demanded payment in Bitcoin in return, and it was only about $17,000 is what they wanted, but they paid it because that's actually what the FBI is telling people to do right now, and that's all I'll say about that. But that's ransomware. That's a scary thought that someone can hold your data hostage, for money. So social engineering, this is something that, again, be careful. If someone's starting to ask a bunch of questions, that you think are a little too invasive, like, why do you need to know that? Or just people peeping and stuff. There are screen protectors you can get for your laptops or your iPads or your phones that I think it's 3M makes them, that if you are trying to look at it from the side on, that it blacks out, that you can only see the screen if you're looking at it dead on. Grace asked about job applications for Social Security number. Are you saying whether or not to give it to them? Grace, is that what you're asking? In that situation, I think you kind of have to, because they're doing a background check on you. Now, that they should then have good information security, to bring this all around, and they should have good information security to protect your Social Security number on your application. They should, shred that or put it in a secure file. So, yeah, for a job application, you're going to have to, because if you refuse, then they're going to think that you're hiding something, and you're not. You don't really have much of a choice with that. But yeah, you just have to. They have to have good data, good records retention that is secure. Is really how you're going to, be able to do that and not worry about it. Yeah, unfortunately there's more questions than answers. It's just trying to do get some things in place. To protect yourself. There's a lot of easy things you can do to protect yourself. So we're running out of time here, but I just want to touch on privacy real quick. Again, privacy isn't really my area, and it is different than security, sort of. But Alison Macrina is the goddess of privacy issues. She's at Flex Libris on Twitter. I gave her a heads up that she might get a bunch of new followers. She runs the Library Freedom Project, and she talks a lot about Tor. Tor used to be an acronym for the Onion Router, but now it's just Tor, and you see their little onion there. Tor, in a nutshell, it's a way to be anonymous online, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're a criminal. because I've heard a lot. I actually heard someone at Computers and Libraries explain Tor as only for criminals, you don't need to learn about it. That's not correct. So it's a privacy issue. It's if you don't want, if you don't want, you know, your online footprint traced, you would use something like Tor. So again, it would be like journalists, you know, who would want to submit stories or leads or tips or things like that, or people who live in countries that don't have freedom of the press or freedom of speech, you know, would want to do that because it kind of like mixes the signals, I guess is another way to explain it. You know, it mixes, it reroutes your internet traffic so it gets all kind of discombobulated, so you can't really trace it. That's just a very generalization, it's a very broad generalization of Tor, in case any of you weren't familiar with it. But look up Library Freedom Project if you're in a public library or plan to be in a public library. Get to know Allison, get to know Library Freedom Project. And then, yeah, that was pretty much what I was going to cover. So, yeah, I could talk like forever about this, so I was trying to just give you the highlights. I know I really kind of glossed over cybersecurity rather quickly. I'm sorry. Are there any specific questions that I can answer, or at least direct you to a source? And while you guys are thinking about that, let me see if there's anything else here in my notes that I forgot to mention. Another good group to get to know is the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Again, their slogan is defending your rights in the digital world. They're also all about, you know, protecting your privacy and anti-spying and things like that. I guess everyone's heard, I assume, in the news about the whole Apple FBI. Apparently the case was dropped. I think the FBI withdrew from the case. I was very busy today. I didn't get to see all the information, but what I understand is I think the FBI just isn't pursuing. Yeah, okay, so that's, yeah, I think I saw the headline about that. Yeah, I don't know if I believe that, but the one that was, I'm sorry, I didn't want to get into anything political or anything, but anyway, I bring this up because I saw a very interesting comment on my InfoSec Sherpa feed, was that I saw a lot of people like celebrating, and then somebody commented of, you know, this isn't necessarily a good thing because it could just mean that the FBI is going to go after a target with less deep pockets than Apple to get what they want. And if you're not familiar with the dangers of creating the back door, there's a great cartoon that I saw that had, you know, like an unnamed Apple, you know, cartoon employee creating a back door with a whole line behind him of, you know, like of dictators and criminal, I guess, and this is a cartoon. So there was a cartoon of a dictator, a cartoon of, you know, a hacker, cartoon of a criminal, things like that. And it was like this whole long line because, you know, the argument from the information security world is, you know, you create one backdoor, then it's just going to like, it'll be like the floodgates opening up, and it's, then who's to stop anyone else from getting in and using backdoors and things like that. So again, without getting into any like, you know, political or ethical arguments, I just wanted to share that that is the general consensus from what I can tell of the cybersecurity people that I follow, is that, you know, that's the deal with the Apple and the FBI situation.
What I think, if I may just jump in for a second, is interesting is all of those situations in which information is requested from us under the guise of making whatever we're doing more secure. So, for example, the recent, I think, press that, I don't know if it was a national conversation or just local here, perhaps, about the fact that many services like Gmail or Facebook or Twitter or whatever are now encouraging people to include their phone number, and they claim it creates a two-step security sort of a block.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
two-factor authentication. Yeah, two-factor authentication in general is good.
but
I'm seeing what you're saying with the phone number.
I think this was a local story where a guy picked up a new phone, which he thought was brand new, and when he turned it on, basically he was able to get to another person every social media accounts that this guy ever had, because they were all phone number authenticated.
Oh, well,
and
then
it was never erased. So, they're just
wow, who was the idiot who didn't wipe the phone before they sold it? But no, sorry, you do raise a legitimate point, but I'm saying still, that's another type of information security of clearing out your electronics. Cheese and crackers. Oh, here, patching. Sorry, I can talk about, I really love, this is like my new passion now. I love security stuff so much. Okay, always be patching. If you don't know what I mean, it's a software company will detect a bug in a piece of software, something that's making it not work correctly. Sorry, I don't know how well versed everyone is, so I'm just going to oh, sorry. My dad always said cheese and crackers instead of cursing, so that's just part of my vernacular now. Patching, patching, you would patch denim or something like that. You would cover it up. So it's when a piece of software is discovered to have a flaw in it that's making it insecure, and a engineer will devise a patch, an overlay that you just install. Updates, exactly, Brian. It will install to fix the problem. Sorry, I'm speaking maybe at too low of a level here, but always. So whenever you see that there's updates for things, always update. Always be patches. Updates is the patch is the specific thing that's fixing the problem, but the update is what releases the patch to update, to protect your software. So that's very important. If you see that there's, new updates on your phone or things like that, always keep things active. If you are on an Android, I think this is more so for Androids, there's an option on an Android about whether or not to allow downloads from a source that's not Google Play. For the love of Steve Jobs, or actually I did that wrong, he was Apple, sorry. For the for the love of Nutella, which is the name of their current Android system, make sure you uncheck that box, because you don't want to download things that are not from a vetted source like Google Play, because there's a lot of apps that will have malware in them, and Google Play at least is vetting them, or should be vetting them. Anyway, so that's one key thing that I read in an article just recently, that you can help protect your Android phone by going into your settings and making sure you have the box unticked to not allow, so that you do not allow downloads from sources other than Google Play, because that's a big one. The other thing that I read recently was this whole clickbait headline about how some staggering high percentage of Android phones are not encrypted versus Apple phones. Apple phones they're so many Apple phones are encrypted, and then some staggering number of Android phones are not encrypted. Well, I think the difference is that on an Android phone you have to manually go in and tell it to encrypt, whereas I think Apple just pops up and does it for you. So if you have an Android phone, make sure you tell it to encrypt your phone. And yes, you're going to have to use a password to get into your phone, but again, you want to make sure your phone is encrypted, so make it harder for someone to get into your stuff. Especially if you just leave your phone somewhere or whatever. What else? So much stuff. Ransomware, talked about. Ransomware is when they take over your whole stuff, like it sounds. Hold it for ransom. I mean, it's scary stuff. It's scary stuff, but there's a lot of things that you can do to protect yourself, and just be smart. Some of it is just it's just common sense, and if people are still interested in hearing another story, I have a great social engineering story that actually I wrote about it. As I'm talking, I'll give you the link. Okay, so in December, I went to a holiday party with some friends, and we thought that we were at the right party. We didn't realize till later. Here, I'm gonna put this here. This is called Lessons Learned from Accidental Social Engineering. So in a nutshell, we showed up at this party, and we thought we were at the right party, so we just were kind of casually chatting with people, but not really giving up a ton of information. But man, these people from this company were giving up a ton of information. Like, you know, this one woman was telling me, like, you know, how often she goes to the place where the party was held at, and how much she spends, and how much her son loves it, and how much she drinks. And then I started talking to this one executive guy, and he pointed out some woman as she walked in the room. He was like, oh, and she's our highest earning salesperson. And just basically, I had this, like, you know, so when we finally figured, and I never lied about why I was there. I kept saying, I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the such and such party, and they're just like, oh, okay. So I mean, I never lied about anything. I didn't pretend that I wasn't supposed, like, I thought I was supposed to be there. And so finally, we saw people across the room that we knew, like more people, and then we were like, oh, I think we're at the wrong party. So when we went over to the place where we were supposed to be, and we told all of them, a bunch of security guys, everybody just started laughing, and they were like, you just socially engineered that Christmas party. And like, yeah, like I got, you know, like 2 or 3 drinks out of it, a whole plate of food, and like if I was up to no good, a ton of information that I could have used. And that's what the article is about, is if I wanted to, you know, I changed all the names and everything to protect the stupid, but if I wanted to, I could have sent some phishing and spearfishing emails to that company, because I had all this information that they gave up so easily and so quickly, and it was amazing. I mean, it's like, yeah, it is amazing. So, yeah, so social engineering is real. It comes in different forms, and you know, it's I hear a friend of mine in England is considered a social engineering expert, and some of the crazy stories that she tells me, like companies will pay her to, you know, socially engineer to like break into their facilities and stuff, and it's just like the easiest things that she does. It's crazy. You know, it's just amazing. I mean, you know, even things just like a sign on a door of like leave this, you know, leave this door, like lock broken, you know, leave open, service has been called, or something like that. Well, that was a plant. The one example that was given to me was, well, that was a plant, and the door really, you know, wasn't broken, and it was just someone who wanted to get back into the building at a later time and created this whole ruse and things like that. So yeah, so be, you know, yeah, it was pretty good. There was more to that story, but that was the gist of it. Was, yeah, just a simple thing as, you know, leaving a note on a door, and people are like, okay, I won't lock this, the lock's broken, okay. So yeah, and again, I'm not trying to make you all paranoid and stuff, but I mean, be mindful, especially like, you know, if you're in a library, you know, there's a lot of library theft that happens. I know it happened in college campuses all the time. You know, students would get up and leave their phones and their laptops and everything. All right, thanks, Dana. Thanks for coming, Dana. And, you know, yeah, things would get stolen all the time. So, yeah, if you see, yeah, absolutely. So it's funny that you mentioned paranoia, Brian, because that was kind of the penny that dropped in my head. I was like, oh, I can get paid to be paranoid? Like, all this, like, my normal paranoia about stuff, like, that's actually a job? Yeah, that's a cybersecurity job, is being paid to be paranoid. So, yeah, I mean, and I'm still, yeah, situational awareness. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, be aware, be alert. You know, I was on a train. I used to commute into the city with my job. I got on a train one night, and there was someone making me very nervous. He made me very nervous, and I I didn't, you know, I changed cars. I didn't think it was serious enough to get off the train, but it made me nervous enough that I changed train cars. And he actually wound up getting off the train himself. But it was just really weird. Like, his behaviors were weird and things like that. So yes, the situational awareness, like, it caught my attention, like, this guy shouldn't be acting like this in this situation. And I think back then I was probably too scared to confront him. I think now I totally would have confronted him, but this was a few years ago, and I think I was a little more scared and was just like, all right, let me just change train cars. And then as I got up to move, I saw he left the train. I was like, okay, well, that's good. But yeah, it's interesting. And my own social engineering, when I would walk through the train car, I could tell which law firms attorneys worked for because they would steal the newspapers and the magazines from the libraries at their law firms. And every law firm had certain stickers on them and stuff, or had routing lists. So you could easily tell, you know, they would still have the routing lists on them, and you could easily, you know, tell where people worked and stuff. It always made me laugh. And then they'd sit there and they'd talk about client stuff and think that they were being cagey. And I'd sit there and I'm like, I totally know you work at White and Williams and you're talking about like I totally know what you're talking about, because they stole the newspapers that had the White and Williams, you know, address labels on them. Like, good job. So sorry, I'm getting really over now. I don't want to get into your online social time here.
It's been really fascinating.
So is there anything
are
that
there
I didn't
any last
answer?
questions for Tracy? Because I want to be sensitive to time. I know that people may still have assignments and other things to do. Do you have any more questions? No problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let's see, what else did I get here? Thanks, Barney. Yeah, so don't forget here, I'll leave this up. Yeah, like I said, sorry that I'm not better versed on privacy stuff, but Allison is, and those resources can help you. Yeah, I had an email conversation with someone the other day about how, I don't know, like privacy and security are different. Oh, thank you, Alicia W. So yeah, and I'm not saying that it's not important. It's just that I've kind of gravitated towards the security stuff. So, all right. So then one last note for everyone is just when I'll send a more robust version of the slides over to Basha and Grace to post that'll have more links in them. I just wanted to kind of get something up for everyone to look at, but not be distracted by the links and things. But I'll get something up for you guys so you can actually have links.
Sounds like a great idea. And of course, once we have the link and we have posted it to ScholarWorks and converted to YouTube, we'll be sending you a link also. So thank you so much, Tracy. That's been great.
Okay,
and of course, you're welcome. I don't know if anybody's still interested in hanging out for a social hour, or if we have run over too far here. But Tracy, you're welcome to stay and chat with us also. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Okay, sure.